The forest went completely silent, and I realized something was watching me. I remember staring into the darkness, holding my breath, as if even the smallest sound from me might invite whatever was out there to come closer. That's when I realized this wasn't just fear. This was instinct screaming at me to stay still. I'm 15, and I live in a small town outside Lincoln, Nebraska. Most weekends, I'm out in the woods, hiking, hunting, camping. It's the only place that ever felt calm to me. I usually go with two friends, Maya and Ryan. We've known each other for years, and we have one strict rule: never go alone. Spring break came around, and we planned something bigger than usual, a full week out in the wilderness. It was a long drive, about 7 hours. Maya had just gotten her license, so she insisted on driving. The first part of the trip felt normal. Music blasting, laughing, snacks everywhere. But somewhere along the way, as the road got narrower and the trees got thicker, something shifted. I couldn't explain it. It was just this heavy feeling sitting in my chest. I brushed it off and told myself it was just nerves, but it didn't go away. By the time we reached the trailhead, that feeling had settled deep inside me. Still, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to ruin the trip before it even started. We grabbed our gear and headed in. At first, everything felt perfect. The air was fresh, the trees stretched endlessly above us, and the quiet felt peaceful again. Familiar, safe. After hiking a little over 5 miles, we found a spot and set up camp. May and I shared a small 2-person tent, and Ryan had brought a hammock. Once everything was ready, we lit a fire, ate, and just sat there talking like we always do. For a moment, it felt like nothing in the world could touch us out there. Then Ryan started complaining. He didn't want to sleep in the hammock. Said it was uncomfortable. I got annoyed pretty quickly and just offered to switch with him so he'd stop whining. He agreed immediately, like he'd been waiting for me to say it. Looking back, I wish I hadn't. Around 2 a.m. they both went to sleep, but I didn't. I have really bad insomnia, so I stayed up by the fire, staring into the flames as they slowly died out. The woods around me grew darker, deeper. Eventually, I got tired enough to try sleeping, so I put out the fire completely, grabbed my headlamp, and climbed into the hammock. That's when it hit me again, that feeling stronger this time. I froze for a second, trying to figure out what was wrong, and then I realized it. There were no sounds, no wind, no insects, no movement, nothing. The forest wasn't quiet. It was dead silent. My chest tightened. Slowly, I turned off my headlamp and lay still, barely breathing, straining to hear anything at all to prove I wasn't alone out there. Seconds passed, then minutes, and then a sound. Soft at first. Something dragging right beside the tent. I could hear it clearly, slow, deliberate, like something was running its hand across the fabric. My heart started pounding so hard, I thought it would give me away. I wasn't even 5 feet from them. Every instinct told me to stay quiet, to not move, to not exist. But fear took over, and I made the worst mistake I could have made. In a shaky voice, I whispered their names. Maya? Ryan? The dragging stopped instantly. Just like that, like whatever it was, I just realized I was awake. I didn't get a response, just that same heavy silence pressing against my ears, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Then something touched the hammock. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't accidental. It hit it like a sharp jab, like a warning. My body locked up instantly. I couldn't move, couldn't think. My chest felt tight, like something was squeezing the air out of me. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was close, too close. And that's where I made another mistake. I told myself I had to see it. I don't even know why. Curiosity, fear, something in my brain breaking under pressure. My hand shook as I reached up and switched on my light. The world didn't feel real after that moment. About a few feet away, something was standing there, not walking, not approaching, just watching. It was hunched forward, studying me. I was hanging a few feet above the ground, but even from there I could tell it was enormous. Taller than any human should ever be, maybe 7 or 8 feet if it stood straight. At first, my mind tried to call it a dog, but it wasn't. It was wrong in every possible way. Its body shape was canine, but distorted, like something had tried to copy a wolf and failed. Its face looked like a mix between a wolf and something almost human. The eyes were deep red, glowing faintly in the dark. Its ears looked cropped like a pit bull's, but uneven and unnatural. Its mouth curled slowly into a snarl, revealing too many teeth, too sharp, like blades instead of bone. Its front limbs ended in long, thin claws that didn't belong on anything alive. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other. No movement, no sound, just that impossible thing, and me hanging there unable to even breathe properly. Then I screamed. The moment the sound came out, everything changed. The creature reacted instantly, making a sound back, something that wasn't fully a howl and wasn't fully a scream. It was wrong. From behind it, my friends finally woke up, shouting, confused, struggling with the tent zipper. The distraction broke whatever strange lock held us together. For a split second, I looked away toward the noise. And when I looked back, it was moving, not running, climbing straight up a tree like it weighed nothing at all. As it turned, I saw its full shape for the first time: gray-silver fur, a dark, heavy mane along its back, shoulders raised in a strange hump, and a thick tail swaying as it climbed higher into the branches. That was the moment I snapped out of it. I dropped out of the hammock and ran. No shoes, no gear, no plan, just pure survival. We didn't stop until we reached the car, but even then, the nightmare didn't feel finished. Because all the way back through the darkness, I kept hearing movement in the trees. Not chasing, not attacking. Just following, like it was watching us leave, like it knew exactly where we were going. The next day, we sent park rangers back to collect our campsite. They came back with nothing, no tent, no bags, no fire pit, not even scraps of trash. Like the forest had simply erased us from it. They said we were imagining things, that we made it up. But we weren't lying. We just didn't have proof, and I still don't have answers. I don't know what that thing was. I don't know why it didn't finish what it started. But I know one thing for sure: Abe have never gone back into the woods since that night. And even now, when everything is quiet, I still hear that sound in my head. And sometimes, in the dark behind my eyes, I still see it watching. This happened during the first COVID lockdown when I was 17 and completely fed up with being stuck inside the house all day. I've always been someone who feels alive outdoors, especially in places where everything feels wild and untouched. Living in Australia, I've learned to stay careful because even something as simple as a pile of leaves can hide a snake. So I never take nature lightly. That weekend, I couldn't take the isolation anymore, so I packed a small bag with water, snacks, and a basic first aid kit and drove out toward the Blue Mountains just to spend a few quiet hours alone. The trail I chose was one I had walked a couple of times before, so it felt familiar and safe. At the start, everything was normal. The sound of my footsteps on the dirt path, birds calling from different directions, and the wind moving gently through the trees made the place feel calm and alive. After walking for a while, I suddenly heard a sharp cracking sound coming from slightly off the trail ahead, like a stick snapping under someone's foot. I paused for a moment and listened carefully, then heard it again, which made me think it was probably another hiker who had stepped off the path for some reason. It didn't seem like a big deal, so I kept walking forward without thinking too much about it. However, when I reached the exact spot where the sound should have come from, there was no one there. I looked around for a few seconds, expecting to see someone nearby, but the area was completely empty with no movement at all. That was the moment I started to feel slightly uneasy. Although I tried to convince myself that I was just overthinking it, I checked the time and realized it was getting later than I planned. And since I didn't want to be stuck in the forest after dark, I decided to turn back and head toward my car. As I walked back along the same path, I passed that exact spot again, and this time something felt completely different, although it took me a second to understand what it was. The birds that had been making constant noise throughout my entire walk were suddenly silent, and the forest felt unnaturally still, almost like everything had frozen at once. I slowed down and looked around, confused by how quickly the atmosphere had changed, and that's when I heard another cracking sound, but this time it was closer and slower, like something was moving carefully and deliberately. At that moment, a strong wave of fear hit me, and without thinking twice, I turned and started running as fast as I could. I didn't look back even once, because it felt like if I did, I might see something that I wouldn't be able to handle. My footsteps were loud and uneven as I rushed down the trail, completely focused on getting back to my car as quickly as possible. When I finally reached the parking area, I quickly got inside my car and locked the doors, my hand shaking and my heart beating so fast that it felt hard to breathe. For a few seconds, I just sat there staring at the trees in front of me, half expecting something to suddenly come rushing out of the forest toward me. But nothing happened, and everything looked completely still again. Then suddenly, the birds started making noise again, all at once, filling the forest with sound like nothing had ever happened. The sudden return of noise startled me so much that I almost jumped, and without wasting any more time, I started the car and drove away as fast as I could. I never went back to that trail again, and even now, I still think about that moment because whatever caused that silence didn't feel normal, and deep down, it felt like something out there was watching me the entire time. I should have stayed away, but curiosity kept pulling me back to that same place. Like, my mind refused to let it go without an answer. The next morning, I woke up with everything from the previous day still fresh in my head, and no matter how much I tried to ignore it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had missed something important. I kept telling myself there had to be a logical explanation, something simple that I didn't notice in the moment, maybe an animal or another person who left before I reached that spot. That thought slowly turned into a decision, and before I could talk myself out of it, I packed my things again and drove back to the trail, this time arriving much earlier in the day when the sunlight made everything look calm and normal. As soon as I stepped out of the car, the environment felt completely different from the day before, with birds calling loudly from the trees and a soft breeze moving through the forest, making it almost impossible to believe that anything strange had happened there. I started walking along the same trail, following the exact path I had taken, and when I reached the spot where I had heard the strange sounds, I stopped and carefully looked around, checking the ground, the bushes, and even a little off the path, expecting to find some kind of sign that could explain it, but everything looked untouched, as if nothing had ever been there. Instead of leaving, I decided to keep going, convincing myself that if something had made that sound, I might find evidence further along the trail. I spent nearly an hour walking back and forth, scanning everything around me, and the only unusual thing I came across were a few snakes moving quietly through the brush, which was normal for this area and not nearly enough to explain what I had experienced. Just when I started to feel slightly calmer, I reached a bend in the trail where the path curved and visibility dropped, and for no clear reason, my body reacted before my mind could understand why, forcing me to slow down and then stop completely. A sudden wave of unease spread through me as I stared at the bend, and even though nothing had visibly changed, the atmosphere felt heavy and wrong in a way that was impossible to ignore. Within seconds, the forest fell silent again, just like the day before, with the birds stopping all at once and the natural sounds fading into a deep, unnatural stillness that made it feel like the entire place was holding its breath. I tried to steady myself, but even breathing felt difficult, as if the air itself had become thicker. That was when I heard it, a slow and disturbing sound that didn't match anything I had heard before, like bones cracking under pressure mixed with a low, wet gurgling noise that made no sense in that environment. The fear hit me instantly, but instead of reacting, my body froze in place as I stood there staring at the bend, overwhelmed by the feeling that something just out of sight was fully aware of me and watching every move I made. The moment I heard movement in the bushes, something inside me finally broke, and I turned and ran as fast as I could down the trail without thinking about anything except getting away. My footsteps were loud and uneven, my heart pounding uncontrollably, and this time it felt different because I could clearly hear something moving behind me through the underbrush, keeping pace and getting closer with every second. In a moment of panic, I made the mistake of glancing back, but instead of seeing anything clearly, all I could make out was the violent movement of leaves and branches, as if something low and fast was pushing through them just out of sight. That single glance was enough to fill me with even more fear, and I ran harder than before until I finally reached the parking area, where I rushed into my car, locked the doors immediately, and struggled to start the engine because my hands were shaking so badly. As soon as the car started, I drove away as fast as I could, barely keeping control as I left the area, not daring to look back properly because I was afraid of what I might see. I did not stop until I was far away from that place, and I never returned after that day because whatever was moving through those bushes did not feel like an animal, and deep down I knew that the second time it was no longer hiding from me.